Oh, hi. Hello. Welcome to another episode of BrewTube. Today we're going to be doing another 4 cans, but before I get on to that, if you are looking for a Christmas present, if you want to give a present, if you're asking for a present, think about this book. This has been an absolute revelation. Ever since I started it, I cannot put it down. It's a fascinating book. It's not just about the taste of the beer. It is about the manufacture. It's about all the ingredients. It is a very in-depth guide. Some people might look at it as a companion to the Tasting Beer by Randy Mosher book. I think this is an absolute standalone companion. It is fantastic. So think about getting this book. And now to the beers. The beers today are coming from Siren. I'm feeling in a very Caribbean mood. It's the 4 Caribbean Chocolate Cake. This iteration of the Caribbean Chocolate Cake is a fairly nice and important one. It's the 10th anniversary. Their first iteration came out in 2013. They've been doing all sorts of experiments with adjuncts, how to introduce wood into the brewing process, rather than barrel aging, and using wood spirals. The collaboration was with Cigar City, and they were using this Spinbot 5000. Similar to a hop cannon, this is a way of getting the beer in contact with certain things, and by doing this, rather than it taking sort of 5 to 7 days, it was like 24 to 48 hours, and they believe the actual flavour profile is going to be better because of this. And also, as you know, as I'm a bit of a merch junkie, I've got the t-shirt, quite an amazing pattern on the back. The pack, which comes in this quite impressive box, it's nice and sturdy, little sliding sheath and everything. It's yeah, nice sturdy box. And it also comes with this glass. So as with the somewhat of a bust on the Tiny Rebel pack, I'll let you watch that one, and I'll put a link in the description below, but spoiler alert, don't buy it. This comes with the glass, so what I would do is I'm going to reel off the 4 beers in the pack. The one that I think is my favourite will go into there. The other 3 into your standard sort of wine glass without the stem, and I'll go through the flavour profiles. As I showed you before in the book from Mark Dredge, beer tasting course, it's not just a case of taste is there, it's all about the aroma as well, and those two combine, and that's what actually gives you the flavour. This isn't just about beer, this is just how it all works. So going on to the beers, I'm going to do them in order of strength. Caribbean Chocolate Cupcake. I guess it's kind of a cute name, kind of gives the indication it might be on a slightly smaller scale. Tropical Session Stout with cacao, cypress wood and vanilla. 330 can, they're all 330 cans, coming in at 5.4% ABV. Caribbean Salted Cherry Chocolate Cake. Tropical Stout with cacao, sea salt, cherries and cypress wood. That one is 7.4%. Also coming in at 7.4%, the Nitro Caribbean Chocolate Cake. Nitro is in the stout, the dark beers like your Guinness and things like that. They have the widget in there. So when you pour them, you're getting the tight bubbles which come out of solution much quickly because they don't get dissolved into the liquid as readily as carbon dioxide. So the Nitro Caribbean Chocolate Cake, tropical stout with cacao and cypress wood. Saving the best till last. Death by CCC Caribbean Chocolate Cake. Imperial tropical stout with cacao, cypress and amburana wood. I think I'm saying that right, amburana wood, I don't know what that is. This comes in at 10%. Obviously, being an imperial stout, it's going to be one of those bigger, bolder beers. As the alcohol does ramp up, the thing which can be a worry is that you're going to get diffusal alcohols, that sort of overpowering booziness, which is sometimes fine. Some of your the Belgian beers, the quads, the triples, they can have that but at an acceptable level, but sometimes it just becomes overpowering. The other thing with some of these like tropical pastry type stouts, they can be quite cloying. So as long as they're not overly sweet, they end with a little bit of bitterness, you're going to have a bit of coffee and chocolate and other aromas, flavours. If they come through being like well balanced, that ticks all the boxes for me. So anyway, let's get into this. The order I presented to you in was probably a sort of digressive, I think that's the right way of saying it, order, because I probably would say that the Imperial Stout will be my favourite, followed by the Nitro. Then the salted cherry chocolate cake, and then at the end the cupcake. That's not to say that they're going to be bad, just that personally for me, that would be my preference. Anyway, I'm gonna get these poured and let's get into it. So serving them from what I believe will be my least favourite, in inverted commas, to most favourite, in inverted commas, I'm going to start off with the Caribbean Chocolate Cupcake. Secondly, the Caribbean Salted Cherry Chocolate Cake. Thirdly, the Nitro Caribbean Chocolate Cake. You can see how that separation of the head, beer ahead there, which is probably, this is now the nitrogen coming out straight out of solution, which will then develop into just like the nice crisp head on the top. Fourth, my unofficial favourite is the Death by CCC Caribbean Chocolate Cake. I already felt like it poured slightly more syrupy. The carbonation seems actually slightly fizzy. For all you beer geeks out there, that pack does come with quite a nice little pamphlet. It's you know, gives you a bit of information on history of the collaboration. Started off with Cigar City, and the way they actually came up with these beers. Anyway, I'm very keen to get into these. Just pouring them was very nice. Definitely the last one, I could get those dried fruits coming straight off. You know, for me, like standing up and pouring at whatever height it was, but you could really smell those aromas straight away. This is the Caribbean Chocolate Cupcake at 5.4%. It's the sessionable version of these, the lighter one, but it's got it all. It's got amazing body, it's got the aroma, it's got the flavour. Lovely head on all of them. Have reserved a few just to, like, sort of, you know, keep the head at the same level. It's unfair that the first one may look slightly less appealing. Yeah, absolutely. This is the kind of dark beer that you're expecting. You'll have to watch the Tiny Rebel video to understand a little bit more. But this one, straight away, beautiful. You've got the coffee, you've got the chocolate, but it's not like, you know, oh yes, there's that and then there's that. It's all in there, it's all mixed in together. Bit of fruitiness, it could be sort of raisin, and there's obviously that sort of malty backbone coming through. Maybe a tiny touch of the umami, that sort of from the autolysis. When the yeast die, it'll give off this savoury sort of flavour. Perfectly acceptable in the darker beers in small quantities. Doesn't smell overly like that, it just simply smells delicious. So without further ado, delicious. But quite fruity as well. They did say that this was the tropical stout. It's fruity, it's got coffee, it's got chocolate, it's almost maybe slightly cherry, but raisin, it's malty, and then very slow that bitterness comes out. This is absolutely beautiful. It's amazing beers. There are other ones out there which are cheaper. Don't get drawn in like I did. Put a little bit more money into them and you will get some phenomenal beers. This is absolutely delicious. It's almost slightly salty. There's maybe that slight savouriness to it, but it's all perfectly layered and well balanced. You've got more chocolate and more coffee. That slight underlying fruitiness. Then that maltiness kind of swells up. There's just a little tad of the sort of savoury umami, which is absolutely fine. And then that sort of bitterness just starts to tingle on your tongue. Amazing. So hopefully they're all going to get better than this. Having put this one in fourth place, who knows? We'll go for the cheeky little one now. Yeah, that one already Absolutely delicious. Looking forward to the rest of these. I hope you're enjoying this video, and if you are, please hit the like button. Technically my third choice, this is the salted cherry. So the Caribbean Chocolate Salted Cherry Cake. This one's slightly stronger, coming in at 7.4%. Getting a lot more vanilla and wood out of this one. I should have actually swirled it or reserved a little bit, because it wasn't fair to say that there wasn't any head in this, because obviously it's got amazing head. Maybe slightly darker than the cupcake. Now saying about the cherry on the nose, it's got that sort of almond marzipan type aroma. Maybe a little earthy, woody definitely, and vanilla. It seems like with each swirl you're sort of waking up this new aroma. You're discovering more and more things the more you swirl it. The flavour doesn't disappoint. The salted cherryness, it almost tricks you into thinking it's slightly sour. Very nice. It sort of attacks the sides of your mouth and kind of makes your mouth water, like you're thinking it's sour. But it's very nice. And then you have the coffee and the chocolate that sort of comes through that sort of foggy saltiness. This obviously sounds absolutely awful. I'm freeballing all the explanations, so if I sometimes go a little bit kind of crazy and wacky, it'll be like, was it Gilly on the wine and food program on the BBC that said that one of those wines was like sniffing glue or something? Well, I'm going to do something similar now. Yet another very delicious beer, although it smelt like the sort of the almond, the cherry pit, that sort of marzipan-y smell, aroma. The actual flavour is completely different. Then you're getting like the proper cherry, but you've got the coffee and the chocolate. Fortunately, it hasn't got that booziness. You can't say it's like these sort of those cherry liqueur chocolates, because you haven't got the overpowering booziness of like some sort of cheap liqueur. All of those aromas are in there. Cherry and the wood and the coffee and the chocolate. It's another fantastic and amazing beer. You can feel the warmth that it's a stronger beer. The first one was 5.4. These ones are 7.4. So yeah, it's really ramped up quite a bit, and you can taste that like sort of that sort of hit afterwards. But none of these up to now have been cloying. They've been very well balanced, very well layered. Very impressed. It's very rare that I'm disappointed with Siren. To be honest, it was very rare that I was disappointed with Tiny Rebel up until now. Just giving this one a bit of a swirl, and you can still see some of the bubbles will actually start to rise. Rush to the top, so that's then knocking a lot more of the nitrogen out of solution. But it's much smaller bubbles that when you actually pour it, as you saw when I was pouring it, that sort of layer and all those bubbles are rushing to the top, creates that sort of thicker, tighter head. Definitely more soy. Get that umami aroma straight away. Then there's some maltiness, maybe the vanilla, wood, coffee. Just getting all of these amazing aromas straight out of this beer, promising you to have everything like that, and then as a flavour. So you've got those aromas, you're expecting to get those flavours. Keep banging on about this book, but it really has been quite a revelation for me. But the book by Mark Dredge explains a lot about like sort of discerning aromas and flavours and things like that. And as you're smelling it, each sniff is giving you a slightly different aspect about the beers. It's just a great pleasure to actually be trying these. Wow. Lighter in body, much darker, deeper, richer flavours. Straight away, deeper, darker coffee and chocolate. So you're getting into much more roastier flavours. The more like sort of burnt espresso, as opposed to maybe then like, you know, freshly ground coffee and things like that. There's some fruitiness in there. Again, I'd go with the dried fruits like raisin, maybe sort of plum. A lot of people are saying that, you know, not only should you be drinking broadly, not should you be drinking broadly, but if you want to develop a more like sort of discerning palate, you're drinking broadly, but also eat broadly. Do taste tests, have different kinds of fruit and just try and smell them. Have some different kind of foods and eat them, but do it blindfolded. This is all about then developing and heightening that particular sense, whether it be your sense of smell or your sense of taste and flavours. Delicious again. To be honest, there's no clear favourite up until now. They've all been absolutely phenomenal. You know, for me to give anything above on Untapped 4.25, 4.5. For me, that's like, you know, this is a beer that I would be happy if there was only one beer that I could drink and then forever, for the rest of my life, then that would be those sorts of beers. So whenever I come across something as amazing as this and those other two, they would easily be getting 4.5. And I think possibly the first two may even get like 4.75 because they really are truly delicious. There's a slightly sort of firmer, harder bitterness to it at the end, which again is still delicious. But when you're doing a panel and then like sort of trying across different ones, you start to think, if I was only drinking this one, that might get a little bit sort of too much. Absolutely perfect in a 330 can, and obviously very happy to be sharing this with other people. I'm not going to be just finishing all of these cans by myself. It has, I mean, I keep repeating myself, it's got it all. It's got the roastiness, it's got coffee, it's that burnt espresso coffee, the sort of darker, more bitter chocolate. There's some dried fruit in there, and then you've got the slightly more assertive bitterness on the end, but phenomenal, absolutely delicious beer. I hope you're really enjoying this video, and if you are, don't forget, hit the subscribe button. On to what I'm going to say is probably going to be my favourite one. This is the Death by CCC Caribbean Chocolate Cake. This is the Imperial Tropical Stout at 10%. So I've given it a bit of a swirl to get the head coming up. Obviously, when you've got the foam, this is how the volatile aroma compounds that are all going to come out of the beer, make it easy to actually then like sort of, you know, smell and start discerning some of those aromas. Big boozy fruity notes straight away. Almost say a bit sort of marzipan, that sort of cherry sort of pit. This has got that sort of tonka bean flavour to it. Straight away hits you with that sort of vanilla-y, coconutty flavours. This is one that had the amburana wood in it as well. So whereas they've all got the cypress wood, they were using wood spirals. So presumably they're using this throughout, and I guess by having those like spirals as opposed to wood chips, they may be getting more surface contact with that wood. But yeah, maybe the mix of the cypress and the amburana wood, yeah, that they might be giving those sorts of flavours. But yeah, there's some very big vanilla and coconutty flavours, but it's the slightly sort of perfumey, not in an overpowering or unpleasant way, but that sort of slightly perfumed, spiced, floral kind of flavour. Very big, very rich, not syrupy, not cloying. That sort of burnt espresso, the coffee, all of that is coming through, and then within sort of, you know, the 10-15 seconds, a much more sort of gentle bitterness coming through. So funnily enough, at 10%, this one, the actual bitterness isn't particularly overpowering. I found that the nitro one had that slightly more assertive bitterness, whereas this one, very, very well balanced. Amazing, delicious beer. Siren do it again. Siren have amazing beers. Very much looking forward to going down to the tap room, and I will be doing a review down there. this is a fantastic beer. The whole box set is phenomenal. One thing that does put me off slightly is whenever you see these box sets coming out, the packaging is amazing. That also means it'll be a bit expensive. Beer prices are going up, so please, breweries, keep your prices down. We all want to go out, we all want to try your beers. We'd love to have more people drinking broadly and trying styles that they don't like. About maybe 2 years ago, didn't like dark beers. Lots of people were trying to get me to try their Baltic, Imperial, Stout and all of these pastry things, and it's far too overpowering and far too much. But for me personally, starting with a porter, it's chocolatey, it's coffee, you may get vanilla and coconut, and it's much easier to get into those. They're quite light and very, very sessionable. It's more toasty than roasty, so it's a more like bready bread crust, toasted bread crust kind of flavour, but absolutely delicious. We have to learn to drink it and appreciate it. And then you can move on to the stouts, which can be drier. They're more roasty and coffee-ish, but then you start to see how the two styles bleed between each other. And then once you're happy with those flavours, you can start ramping up with the strength. And if you haven't already seen my short about the Keys high voltage 17% beer, then I'll also put a link in the description to that as well. This iteration of the Caribbean Chocolate Cake is a fairly nice and important one. It's the 10th anniversary. It first started in 2015. Big, boozy, fruity notes straight away. Do come back again. We're getting new content out every other week. Nope. Alright beer geeks, that's your lot. Do come back, there'll be loads more content coming out. We do put stuff out twice a week. That's your lot for today anyway. See you again soon.